Hello, everybody. I'm just going to give it a few minutes for people to join me live. Not many people do join me live, to be honest with you. This is a replay gig. But anyway, I'm just going to pause the recording just for a couple of moments to let everybody in. Okay, here we are. Yes, there we go. Everything's recording, everything's set up. Let's get started. First thing I need to do is just grab my notes. But what we're talking about today is window of tolerance. We've been talking about it during the week, but today is the usual mini workshop that I throw at us all on a Thursday. So, window of tolerance, also known as your comfort zone. And I'm sure you all know about comfort zones. Yeah, it's where you're safe, it's where you're calm. Being outside of that window of tolerance, whether it's fight or flight, fawn or freeze, these are out either side of your window of tolerance. There's a really useful PDF that I've recently added to the Emotional Health Handbook folder about window of tolerance. It's got lots of info on it. It's brilliant. If you don't have access to that, drop me a message with your email address and I will send you the link to it. You never know, I may even do it within this workshop. Now, people pleasers have, generally speaking, dropped out of their window of tolerance into the fawn response, doing whatever is necessary to be liked or accepted. This is one of these primal old, being part of the tribe situations. Because if you're not part of the tribe, if you're not kept safe within that cave at night, yeah, you get eaten. So on top of that being liked and accepted, you tend to, or people pleasers tend to sort of lock up in that area, becoming frozen, incapable even of true feeling. And this was literally me. Yeah. I've talked about this before in other posts. People pleasers put themselves last all the time. And this builds into daily frustrations. Yeah. Things like always rushing, your life is in chaos, nothing is planned, nothing ever goes to plan. If you've got other words for this, stuff it in the chat box or post on this post if you're watching the replay, and we'll talk more about those other words. It can feel like there's no way out of the commitments that you've made, the responsibilities that you've got yourself into, like you're going to be stuck forever in this spiral of demand. Sometimes this can feel like anxiousness. So what is it that you really want? Well, to be within your window of tolerance is to be cool, calm, collected, connected. Yeah. Is to have time for self-care, being able to build your list of priorities, construct and stick to the boundaries that you create. Essentially, it's freedom to just be a human being rather than a human doing. So there's 3 examples coming up of why it's important to do this work. So here are those 3 things. First of all, trauma reform informed principles. Yeah. I'm just going to change settings here. Hello, Janine. Nice to see you. You've come in a little way in, so we're already into the 3 examples of why it's important to manage your nervous system, why it's important to be within your window of tolerance, and why it's important to do this work with someone. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is trauma-informed principles. I am a trauma-informed coach, and If you have any kind of trauma in your life, I would suggest that you explore your window of tolerance or your comfort zone with a trauma-informed coach, because we have these 6 principles. I actually have these principles. See if I can pull it down without messing my camera up. I have these 6 principles on a little slip of paper stuck on my laptop. Sorry, literally next to the camera, so that I can see them whenever I'm doing training like this or whether I'm working with a client, because it's that important. These 6 principles are, start with the biggest one, which is safety, creating safety, asking the client how they can be more safe in that close coaching environment, in that coaching container. This enables the second principle, which is transparency. Transparency of the coach to the client and of the client to the coach. This transparency builds trust in the coaching container. Just about every single person on this planet has experienced traumatic events. That's different from being traumatized, right? Because you can actually experience traumatic events and not become traumatized yourself. I'm going to pause there in the middle of the 6 principles at number 3 and give you an example. Say you've got 4 soldiers all in a truck together, right? All in the back of the truck together. So you've got the driver and then these 4 guys. I'm not going to talk about the driver, because I'm going to talk about these 4 guys who have the experience of, say, an IED going off underneath the truck that they're in. 2 of these soldiers have wives. One has a family, one doesn't. But when they get back to camp, they're all uninjured, by the way. When they get back to camp, they can contact their wives, they can talk to their wives, they can send messages backwards and forwards. They've got that support to share what's just happened to them. When they go home, they can continue to talk to their wives. The guy with the family doesn't necessarily talk to his kids about this traumatic event, but he can use playtime with his kids to reinforce that there is safety away from that environment. The third guy, say he has a girlfriend or friends that he can talk to, not a spouse, but friends that he can talk to. Maybe some of them are ex-army themselves. And he doesn't experience lasting trauma from that traumatic event. But the 4th guy has got no one to share with. He's a bit of a loner. He doesn't even share with his friends in the army. And for him, this traumatic event is going to be much more traumatizing. He is likely to be dealing with PTSD after the event. And that's simply because he's got no way of expanding his experience beyond the traumatic event. So he's more likely to get PTSD. So, right, okay, just checking that. My phone is going bananas. I don't know what's going on. I think the world and his mother are trying to connect to the event, and don't hit the join now button. I mean, seriously, shush, phone. So, going back to those trauma-informed principles. The third one is being together with other survivors of trauma. That in itself, just sharing those events, whether those are events that you have in common or whether it's the response that you have to those events. Just someone who's been blown up, sharing with someone who may have been raped or abused, just sharing that experience of something that has affected you is fabulous. So that's the third one. The 4th trauma-informed principle is power-balanced partnership. And what that means is when you're in a coaching relationship, say you're in a coaching relationship that's one-to-one, we are both equal in that relationship. I'm not on a pedestal and I don't talk down to you just because I'm a coach or you're coming to me as a client. That is a big no-no. We don't do that. The 5th principle is empowerment. And I always encourage my clients to voice their own opinions. It doesn't matter whether I agree with them or not. Yeah? Having that voice, being able to be heard, is really important in a coaching relationship. I always empower my clients to express their choice to me. So say, for instance, I say, okay, I've got an exercise that may help you with that. This is the exercise. Do you want to do that? And I empower them to have the choice. Do they want to do it or not? And frequently, again, this is in a one-to-one coaching environment, frequently during our conversations, I will ask consent. Is that all right? How does that feel to you? And if we're in an in-person environment, yeah, I may ask a client's consent to touch them physically, yeah, whether it's to give them a hug or just to hold their hand. Yeah? And if they grant that consent can equally be withdrawn, just like that. Yeah? That is the empowerment of the client. And the last principle, when it comes to trauma-informed principles, I call the ism, because this is also big, but it's also very simple. I will respect your religion, your race, your color, your preferences, full stop. Yeah? Because those isms of ageism, racism, sexism, any kind of ism, yeah, is something that I need to acknowledge, respect, be aware of. And as a trauma-informed coach, I am also ready to be taught by my client if there's something that I don't know or don't understand. So that's the first example of what's important when you are in a coaching container. I'm going to give two more examples, but obviously these can go on to infinity. So just for the sake of limiting this class a bit, the next one is compassionate questioning. Now, compassionate questioning is something that I employ near enough every single session. Whether that question is, how are you feeling? Is there a feeling going on in your body right now? Where is that sensation held in your body? What does it feel like? Giving the client chance to, place their hands on the part of their body where they're feeling a particular sensation. Giving them time. Compassionate questioning itself is usually around these two questions, asking, is that true? Usually followed up by, is that really true? It's a simple thing, because say if someone is saying, I feel like I'm being judged by everybody in my street just because my front garden is a bit untidy. Yeah, is that true? Well, yeah, they look down their noses at me. Yeah, but is that really true? And giving the client time to actually stop and think about whether the judgments, whether the opinions that they think other people have got, yeah, whether they're actually really true. The other question that I ask over and over and over and over again of myself when I experience that kind of judgment is, are they judging me, or are they judging an opinion that I hold? Just because I happen to like leaning on a tree doesn't mean that somebody else's opinion of me of being a raving lunatic tree hugger, yeah, that's their opinion of my opinion. Got nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. So I will sometimes ask the client, is that judgment really you? Is that feeling really yours? Is that opinion really your opinion? Or is it an opinion that you've been brought up with? Again, just to pick out an ism out of the air, say your father is really, really anti-gay people. he may have formed that opinion from his church or from his father. Yeah. But if you are brought up with that opinion around you in your space all the time, when you leave home, you have a choice. Do you continue with that opinion? Is that opinion really yours? Or is it an opinion that you're carrying because you're carrying it? So compassionate questioning. It's about challenging the client in a compassionate, caring way. When I'm in session with clients, I probably spend at least half my time asking questions. Because the truth of the matter is, when you're in a coaching container with me, is that you know the answer. But for some reason, you're not giving yourself that answer. You're not allowing yourself to believe in that answer. So my challenge is come in the form of compassionate questioning, or even invitations. Like, I invite you to look at that opinion and see if it's really yours. I invite you to look at that judgment that you are holding of yourself and asking yourself, is that somebody else's opinion or is it yours? Yeah. So the third thing that I'm going to talk about is body connection. Now, I'm a somatic coach. That means that I tap into your own body's wisdom, also known as gut instinct. I do that with a number of exercises. My favorite one is to teach a client how to listen to their body's opinion. And I do that with a little exercise called visceral yes and no, where we think about a question, which is an absolute full body yes, and a question which is an absolute full body no, and then listen to the sensations that our body produces. That's one exercise. The reason why body connection is so important is because our bodies can literally, and I know for some of you this may not be something that you instantly connect with, your body holds on to the emotions that were created from an unmet need. And they will hold on to that emotion literally in your tissues. I'll explain why in a minute, until that unmet need is met. And I will often guide my clients to identify that unmet need and then meet that unmet need. It's difficult to think of an example off the top of my head. Maybe I should have thought of an example before I started this workshop. If anybody who's watching has got a question on this, yeah, just pop it in the chat and I'll pick it up. But let me give you an example about hormones. For instance, if you are brought up in an environment where, say, your father is a tyrant, or your mother is a tyrant, or a narcissist, or simply not maternal, yeah? Your body will be producing adrenaline. Also happens with trauma, especially if you're reliving trauma. Now, these floods of adrenaline and cortisol through your body, yeah, literally flood your whole system with these hormones. And they're not always released and cleared afterwards. You become constantly anxious, constantly worried. Your ability to be you becomes affected, and your life gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller because of these traumas, because of these anxious moments. And these hormones literally become trapped in your tissues, in your liver, your kidney, in your lungs, in your muscles. There's a lot of research going on at the moment to see whether disorders that have been thought of as autoimmune disorders are actually hormone caused. things like fibromyalgia being caused by repetitive floods of adrenaline and cortisol. I'm really, really looking forward to the results of that. But it can be the same with stuck emotions. And releasing those emotions, processing those emotions, effectively feeling the feelings can create room and spaciousness for freedom and growth. And this spaciousness is something that is in every single part of my program called the 3Ps system, but we're not here to talk about that. If you want to know about that, message me, but this is not the subject of this workshop. So let's talk a little bit about how I can support you in one-to-one coaching. One of the things that immediately springs to mind is sometimes people don't even realize that they are exhibiting trauma responses. I was amazed when I first started to study all of this stuff that my relentless perfectionism and people pleasing is actually a trauma response. Who knew? And it's a trauma response because at some point that window of tolerance has been either busted out the top of or busted through the bottom of, upwards being the fight or flight, adrenaline, cortisol, we were just talking about, or in my case, playing small, playing quiet. As you can tell by my purple hair, I've grown out of playing small. I don't do that shit no more. But the people pleasing in my life and the perfectionism in my life is a trauma response. And being a trauma survivor myself, I can sometimes see that in others beyond what they see in themselves. And when I point that out to somebody, that in itself can bring the individual such amazing awareness. And that awareness gives you the space, gives you that moment of pause in between a trigger and a reaction, where you can literally choose to respond rather than react. This can also help you to find your own truth. People pleasers in particular often carry the views or opinions, as I explained earlier, of other people. I used to believe that the only way that I could be truly loved in a romantic relationship was to become everything that person wanted me to be. Which meant that when I was in a relationship with an absolute raving narcissist, I was ideal for him because everything he wanted me to be, I became. Every step I took towards being perfect for him was a step away from myself. Yeah? Away from this short haircut, purple hair, I carried his views and opinions until I suddenly realized one day when my gob opened and I said something that was like, what? That's not your opinion. You don't actually think that. That is not your view. Why did you say it? Yeah. That was when the light started to come on in that relationship and I realized it had to end. As it happened, the relationship after that was also a bit of a disaster, but then I met my second husband. I'm not going to go into huge amounts of history. If you want to know about my story, I think that one of these days I'm actually going to record a video that's just my story so that you can go watch it. But coaching with me will involve my story because my experience of life has meant that I can come to coaching with a whole pile of superpowers. So all of the tools that I can teach you about regulating your nervous system are vast, absolutely vast. I can teach you all kinds of tips and tricks, everything from, these will make you laugh. Right. One way to calm your nervous system is a technique called, blowing up a balloon. You literally put your thumb in your mouth and create pressure, create internal pressure. Because when you release that pressure, your body will relax from the inside out.
Time to drink water.
You can also splash your face with cold water. This triggers, I think they call it a dive response, where your blood pressure drops, your heart rate drops. Because by splashing that cold water on your face, you're kind of telling your body you're about to go underwater. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but those free divers, they will bob. So they'll go under the water and then up, under the water and then up, before they do their long dive. But all of these techniques, I'm kind of reluctant to teach these techniques, actually teach them on a quick workshop like this, because I need to know more about you as an individual to give you the right technique and to advise you when to use it. One of the things that I do want to cover on this workshop, though, are the disadvantages of learning tools to regulate your nervous system, because there is a disadvantage, and it's a big one. The thing is, using these tools to regulate can actually encourage you to avoid feeling feelings altogether. Yeah. Using tools and creating a daily routine can be super helpful, but equally helpful is having a curated, safe space to feel those feelings in your body, whether you create this space yourself or you do it with a trauma-informed coach. Either way is fine, but creating space to feel, really feel the sensations in your body, to release those emotions, to listen to your body instead of, storing them up for later. One of the questions I've often asked in these random lives that I do on Facebook are things like, have you ever just had those experiences where your gob opens, you say something and you think, where the heap did that come from? That's odd. Why did I say that? Why did I get so easily wound up by that? That's the, storing the trauma for later thing. Yeah, it's where you don't process it. And then a trigger jumps in. You don't have time to respond. You simply react. Your body reacts. But I'm going into the disadvantages. Okay. Now, it's important that you have a daily routine, that you have these tools. Yeah. But what happens when you start thinking to yourself, oh, I feel a bit anxious, I better use a tool. Oh, there's that knot in my throat again. Maybe I'm going to cry. Oh, hang on, I've got a tool for that. Or if you get home at the end of the day and you think, you know what, I've been rattled and snarky and all day, but you know what, it's fine. I don't have to deal with whatever's causing that because I've got a tool. Anything, is there any more I can think of off the top of my head? Oh yeah, this is one that that I kind of found myself doing a lot when my husband first passed away. I had all of these tools because I looked them up on the internet, Google Doctor, to control the waves of grief. And these were waves of grief. I stuffed them down basically by binge eating most of the time, or shutting off all of my emotions, going into a complete freeze response and just becoming blank, absent, anything but present. So these waves of grief, I didn't have to deal with them because I used a tool, a very unproductive tool of binge eating, to numb these responses. The tools I can teach you are great medicine in the moment that you need them. but feeling, processing, and releasing those emotions is the greatest medicine. Being truly present and supporting yourself in those moments is better still. So the thing I'm going to teach you today, and this is where I'd like us all to put down pens, sit still, plant your feet on the floor, and pause. Take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just going to open the, there you go. Just relax for a second. Notice if in your body there are any sensations. Listen to them. Feel the sensations in your body, because that's your body talking to your brain. And if there is a sensation going on in your body, can you give yourself a few seconds or a few minutes even to feel that feeling? Listen to any voice that comes up in your head. Place a hand on that body part where there is a sensation, wherever it is. Those simple steps of pausing, noticing, listening, holding that part of your body where that sensation is going on, that can sometimes just be enough for your body to process that niggly little feeling. I mean, there is research out there that says that you can, with practice, completely process an emotion from beginning to end in 90 seconds. And that's something that I can teach you. It will allow your body to release the uncomfortable feeling and allow the nervous system to self-regulate and get you back into your window of tolerance. So we've been on this now for half an hour. I'm going to remind you one more time before I open the floor to questions, that within the Emotional Health Handbook that is available for free for anyone who's in my Facebook group, just drop me a message and I can get that link over to you by email. You can also pop questions on the recording. So those of you who are watching this workshop on the recording, you can pop a question on this post. And if you're shy and you don't want to put your question on the post, message me. Yeah. I must admit that sometimes when people message me, if we're not friends, they go into that hidden message request things, and sometimes it takes me a few days to pick them up. But if you message me either directly on Instagram, my handle is @Coach Tanya S, no dots, no gaps or anything like that. It's just Coach Tanya S, Tanya with a Y. You can message me there, or you can message me on Facebook. Or like I said, put your questions underneath this post when it goes live. So, going to pause there for a second. Has anybody got any questions that they want to drop for me in the Zoom chat? Go for it. If either of the people who are watching me live want to unmute and just talk, you can do that too. But if not, no, last chance, honestly. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now then. Stop. Oh, hang on, it's asked me a silly question. Stop the recording.